The Alpha's cubs went missing for days. They were found teaching human children to roar. The emergency beacon screamed across 3-star systems before anyone could silence it. Alpha Vash of the Thornridge Pack stood at the viewing port of the diplomatic station, his massive frame rigid with barely controlled fury. His silver-striped fur bristled along his spine, and his amber eyes held the kind of ancient fire that made younger species step back instinctively. For days, he growled, his voice resonating through the chamber like distant thunder. My cubs have been missing for 4 days, and your security cannot find them? Station Commander Ylith kept her voice steady. Alpha Vash, we have searched every section of this station. Our sensors show no life signs matching your cubs. Your protocols are worthless. Vash's claws scored deep grooves into the metal railing. If they have been harmed, there will be consequences that span generations. The Thornridge were apex predators from a world where strength meant survival. They had joined the Galactic Council only 2 generations ago. The disappearance of Alpha Vash's cubs seemed to confirm the worst fears of those who whispered that predators had no place among civilized worlds. What nobody knew was that in a forgotten maintenance corridor on the station's lower levels, 6 Thornridge cubs were very much alive. They sat in a circle around a human who looked absurdly small compared to their bulk. Kalin had found them 3 days ago while running diagnostics on an air filtration system. He had rounded a corner and nearly stumbled over a pile of fur and teeth. Any reasonable person would have run. The Thornridge were massive, powerful, and these cubs alone weighed more than he did, but Kalin had not run. He had seen something in their eyes that stopped him cold. Fear. Confusion. The smallest one was shaking. Hey, he had said softly, crouching down to their level. Are you guys lost? The cubs had stared at him with those enormous amber eyes. The largest one, who Kalin later learned was named Vash after his father, had stepped forward protectively. But there was uncertainty in his posture. These were children, just children who were scared and far from home. Now, 3 days later, they trusted him completely. No, no, Kalin said gently, watching the smallest cub try to produce the deep, resonant roar that was the mark of Thornridge maturity. What came out was more of a squeaky wheeze. You are trying too hard. It is not about forcing the sound. It comes from here. He placed his hand on his chest. From the center. From what you feel inside. Vash Jr. tilted his massive head. But you are human. Humans do not roar. Kalin smiled. Maybe not like you do, but we have our own ways of finding our voice. He took a breath, then let out a shout. It was not a roar. It was distinctly human, raw and emotional, carrying frustration and joy and defiance all at once. The cubs stared at him in wonder. Every species has their own sound, Kalin explained. Your roar is not just noise. It is who you are. It carries the strength of your pack, the courage of your ancestors, the love of your family. You cannot force that. You have to feel it first. The smallest cub, whose name was Kira, looked down at her paws. I am afraid my roar will never come. I am the smallest, the weakest. Kalin knelt beside her, completely unafraid of the claws and teeth so close to his face. Being small does not mean being weak. I am smaller than all of you, right? But I found you when an entire station full of bigger, stronger people could not. Then what matters? Vash Jr. asked. Heart, Kalin said simply. Courage, kindness, knowing who you are and not being afraid to show it. He paused. Want to try something? Everyone, close your eyes. Think about your family. Think about what makes you proud to be Thornridge. The cubs closed their eyes. Kalin watched as their expressions shifted, becoming peaceful, then determined. Now he whispered, let it out. Not for anyone else. For yourself. The sound that erupted from 6 young throats shook dust from the ceiling. It was not the mature, earth-shaking roar of an adult Thornridge. But it was genuine. It was pure. It carried the unmistakable echo of something ancient and true. When they opened their eyes, they were looking at each other in amazement. We did it, Kira bounced excitedly. We actually roared. You found your voices, Kalin told them, his voice full of pride. That was when the maintenance door exploded inward. Security forces poured through, weapons drawn, followed by Alpha Vash himself. The massive predator took in the scene in an instant. His cubs, healthy and whole, sitting in a circle around a single human. Get away from my cubs, Vash snarled, his fangs bared. Kalin stood slowly, hands raised, placing himself between the alpha and the cubs. With respect, Alpha Vash, your cubs are safe. They have been safe the whole time. Safe. The word came out as a growl. They have been missing for 4 days. Not missing, Vash Jr. said, standing up beside Kalin. Learning. The alpha's eyes narrowed. Explain. We got lost during the tour. We were scared. We did not want to admit it because we thought it would make us look weak. Then Kalin found us. He did not call security. He asked what we needed. Kira stepped forward. We told him we were afraid. Afraid that we would never be strong enough. That our roars would never come. And he taught us, another cub added. Not with technology. He taught us with patience. With kindness. He showed us that strength comes from understanding who we are. Alpha Vash stared at the human for a long moment. Kalin met his gaze steadily, despite the primal fear coursing through his veins. Finally, Vash spoke. You kept my cubs safe for 4 days. You taught them what our own trainers have struggled to teach. What? Kalin shrugged. Because they needed help. Because they were scared. That is what you do when children need you. It does not matter what species they are. The alpha's expression shifted. The council speaks often of humanity's weakness. Your lack of natural weapons. Your fragile bodies. Yes, Kalin agreed quietly. We are weak in many ways. And yet, Vash continued, you stepped between me and my cubs without hesitation. You protected them from their own fear. You gave them something our strongest warriors could not. He paused. Perhaps the council does not understand what true strength is. Vash Jr. moved to stand beside his father. Kalin taught us that our roar is about knowing who we are and not being afraid to show it. He said that is what makes humans different. They are not the strongest, but they know their strength anyway. Alpha Vash was quiet for a long moment. Then he approached Kalin. The human did not move, even as the massive predator lowered his great head until they were eye to eye. The Thornridge pack honors courage above all else, Vash said softly. You have shown more courage in these 4 days than most warriors show in a lifetime. You have my gratitude. You have my respect. He raised his head and released a roar that shook the entire station. It was a sound of approval, of acceptance, of welcome. The cubs joined in, their young voices blending with their alphas in a chorus that spoke of pack and family and belonging. When the sound faded, Vash placed one massive paw gently on Kalin's shoulder. You taught my cubs to find their voices. In doing so, you have reminded me why humans deserve their place among the stars. Your strength is not in your bodies. It is in your hearts. Kalin looked at the cubs, who were watching him with obvious affection, and he smiled. They taught me something too. They reminded me that every being, no matter how different, just wants to be understood, to be seen. Then we have learned from each other, Vash said. That is the true purpose of the council. The Alpha's cubs had gone missing. They had been found not just safe, but transformed. And the human who had protected them had demonstrated something the galaxy was slowly learning. Humans might be small and fragile, but their capacity for compassion and their willingness to protect the vulnerable made them formidable in ways that had nothing to do with claws or fangs.